It's gonna blow this out, so I can see. Everything good with you? You have a visitor coming on Zoom then?
Yeah, not yet.
Not there, okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we're going to start with a moment of reflection. I'm going to start with the confirmation of the agenda. Recommendation that the agenda, council agenda dated December 2nd, 2025 be approved as circulated. By Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Markell. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Anyone have anything that they can't talk about today? Seeing none, we have no recorded closed session, so we are on to item 6, consent agendas. Would anybody like to see anything pulled? 6.1 to 6.23. Councilor Markell?
6.15. Is there a question?
Okay. 6.5.
6.15.
One. So many, okay. Councilor Jeffra?
I was gonna have that one pulled as well, so it's just the same time.
Did anything else hold before we go on to that discussion? Seeing none, would you like?
Yeah, I just had a question if we were gonna add on to those comments or if we were planning on putting something forward for the proposed fire conservation bylaw. So I see the Perth has done that. Were you planning on doing that?
I think we left it that each councillor was going to put in their own, but then this came out from Perth East. So I believe some people would like to just echo the comments. It is the decision of council to either write a full letter or just endorse Perth East letter. Councillor Jeffra?
Yeah, I was gonna have this to provide a letter of support for Perth letter. They've done some great work here, and I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I think maybe a letter of support would be appropriate.
Councillor?
There's pieces in this that I would like to understand more fully before we send a letter of support, like point 3, establish a tree planting registration system. What does that look like? What's the cost involved with that? Are we gonna start micromanaging the trees that are planted around here? So that piece concerns me a little bit. And then this piece about them being not fined for pushing dead fallen trees back into the bush. Is that a known issue? Is that something we have been finding people for? So I'm not really comfortable echoing this same letter. If council wants to get together to do a letter. It's just, I'm not fully comfortable with all of the language in this one. I'm just gonna get on.
What would council like to do? I believe the Perth East, the last one was pushing, I think that is directly of something that happened in Perth East, so I think that's why that's there, they're pushing the tree back in to the bush, so that's directly affects them.
I think if you look around countryside, there's a lot of farmers push trees in the bushes. And yeah, I think it is a problem.
Well, what would you like to do, council?
Most of them push the hawthorn and buckthorn back and they don't actually cut trees down. If you look at 125, there's a bunch of bushes done. And it's none of the trees, it's just the noxious weeds, the trees that they're pushing in, not the trees themselves.
I do think what we see was sometimes we get some things from the county and zoning and planning, and what looks like the size of the bush lot now has been considerably smaller. So there becomes a line where people are pushing, well, maybe we push a little bit further, and then each year a little further. And now that people have bigger equipment, we've just seen the bush lot going above with sometimes the county planning lines, they're shrinking. So, yeah, I think that's definitely an issue. I agree. It's just the language of not being able to push dead ones in, like, of course you're allowed to cut down dead trees, so why would that be a problem?
I'm happy to work on a second letter. I do agree with a lot of the points that are made here.
Some of them are great.
And I do believe going back to the presentation by Mr. Camp and Mr. Cohen, there are things that need to be addressed. There is still a public meeting, December 10th, out at Perth, that more discussion will happen, and I think the deadline for comments for the county is December 17th off the top of my head. So we can either go around and vote to endorse this, or we can pause and write our own letter, using a lot of that language, but maybe not all. What would you like to do, Councillor Jeffco?
I'll make a motion to endorse the letter.
Seconder?
For Perth East.
Seconded by Councillor Mark Bell. All those in favor? Opposed? It is carried. Okay, anything else then? There was nothing else? And we will go to items 7, public meetings, hearings and delegations. Oh, I'm sorry. That the consent agenda 6.1 to 6.23 be received for information and that the regular council minutes of November 18th, 2025 be adopted. Moved by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, second by Councillor Markell. All those in favor? Carried. We are at public meetings, hearings and deliberations. All right. Recommendation that the council meeting be adjourned at 9:36 a.m. in order to convene a public meeting pursuant to section 34 of the Planning Act concerning an application for zoning bylaw amendment for the property located at 13,221 Road 140 in the Township of Perth South. Is that the one with us? Yeah, that one shouldn't be it. 3221. Okay, 3221 Road 140 in the Township of Perth South. Moved by Councillor Markell, second by Councillor Cordew. All those in favor? Carried. Any opposed? Okay, recommended. So now we're moving to this. So the application is for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment to satisfy condition 7 of consent application B 44-25. The application is submitted by property described as, well, the applicant's name is Shane and Josie Aarons, and it's for property described as Park Lot 25, Consent 7, 221 Road 140. I now ask the clerk to advise and confirm on the method and date of the notice given for this meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Orr. Notice was circulated by regular mail and is signed posted on the subject property as of November 12th, 2025, as required under the provisions of the Planning Act, as well as being posted on the township website.
Okay, I will now ask Haley Kalama, planner, to provide an overview of the application. Welcome, Haley. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Mayor and Councilors. I'll be presenting zoning bylaw amendment ZN 8-25 for lands municipally known as 3321 Road 140 in the Township of Perth South.
Okay, to be fair.
I just want to make sure it's on record that it's 3321.
I have another one that says 3221.
I'm all confused. It's okay. Next slide, please. The subject lands are located on the east side of Road 140, and the surrounding properties are primarily used for agricultural purposes. The subject property is designated as agriculture in the county official plan and zoned agricultural, commercial, industrial, and natural resource environment in the Perth South zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. The subject application is required to satisfy a condition of consent application B 44-25, which received conditional approval in October of 2025 by Perth County to sever a surplus farm dwelling as a result of consolidation of a remnant agricultural land with an existing agricultural operation. The subject application proposes to rezone the severed lands from agricultural zone to special agricultural zone A-1 to permit the existing residential and accessory uses. The application also proposes to rezone the retained lands from agricultural zone to agricultural zone and special agricultural commercial industrial zone to special agricultural zone A-3 to prohibit any new residential development on the agricultural lands. In light of the foregoing, it is the opinion of staff that the zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with provincial planning statement and conforms with the County of Perth official plan. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Haley? Councilor Marqueta?
Schedule A, and it's 307 in our booklet here, our agenda. There's 3 boxes. One has dots, one has lines, and one has lines that crisscross. And then on the drawing, this might be an administrative question, but on the drawing, there's ones with just lines and why is there 3 boxes? I guess there's no description for the 3rd box with the cross lines.
Through the chair, that was a error that I did submit a new one. I don't know if it got uploaded to you in time, but so there is the 3 boxes because there is 2 different zones right beside each other. And the one to the north, the ACM-8 is being applied to be part of that A-3 to prohibit the dwelling. Prohibit the dwelling and allow for agricultural uses.
Okay.
So it's something was there before, but now we're removing it, so we had to acknowledge that it was there and applying it to the dot portion, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so the ones that has the lines that cross, that is just to satisfy the area with the dots?
Yes, it's being.
I think the clerk wants. Sorry, so the planner did submit a new Schedule A. I did put it with the bylaw, so it is at the end of the agenda, the corrected one. The incorrect one was part of her report package, so I didn't remove it.
Okay.
So there is the correct version, but later on the agenda.
Thank you.
It describes it better.
Yeah.
Just to back up, that was years ago. They came for a zoning change because they were going to put a hog trucking, and then that changed as the new ownership. So they're making it back in farmland.
Future, yes, that's correct.
Okay, makes sense, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
You have another?
That was my question.
Yeah, it seems complicated, but it's not.
Okay.
Just lots of dots.
Okay, so I'll now ask the clerk to go around any comments received from circulated agencies and landowners. Thank you, Mayor Orr. There were no comments. Is there any person in attendance who wishes to make any comments regarding the application? All persons are to state their name and address for the minutes. Seeing none, do any council members have any questions regarding the application? Does the applicant wish to respond to any comments made by either of the members of the public or council? And thank you for all those in attendance for their input. We can also consider all comments received when making final decision on the application. So I'm going to adjourn this public meeting to reconvene in the regular meeting. Move, yeah, need to move into that, yeah, okay, moved by Councillor Jeffel, second by Councillor Vanessa, all those in favor, carried. All right, so. I'm right here now. Okay, so now I have a recommendation that the Township of Perth South Council received the report dated December 2nd, 2025, and entitled zoning bylaw amendment set N8, 2025, submitted by Shane and Rosie Aaron's affecting lands described as concession 7, part lot 25, municipally known as 3321 Road 140, and that the Township of Perth South Council approves zoning bylaw amendment set N8, 2025. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Vanessa. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. 7.2, Haley. You're in a consent application B 46-2025.
Thank you. I'll be presenting consent application B 46-25 for a surplus farm dwelling severance located at 5655 line 6 in the township of Perth South. Next slide, please. The subject application proposes to sever a surplus farm dwelling that will result in a farm consolidation with a farming operation. The application is proposing to sever a residential lot that is approximately 0.64 hectares in area and contains a single detached dwelling, an accessory structure, a private well, and septic. The lands will be retained are approximately 40 hectares in area and contain 5 grain bins, a vacant barn, accessory structures, and agricultural lands. Additionally, the application is proposing to establish an easement for access to the hydro line along the existing entrance. The easement will be on the severed lands in favor of the retained lands, and the proposed size of the easement is approximately 4.05 meters wide by 76.15 meters deep. A condition of consent has been included that will impose restrictions on future permitted uses of the severed and retained lots through an adoption of a required zoning bylaw amendment. The condition requiring a ZBA has been recommended to satisfy the requirements of the 2024 PPS and the County of Perth official plan. In light of the foregoing, staff are supportive of the proposed severance and are of the opinion that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement 2024 and conforms with the County of Perth official plan, subject to the recommended conditions of consent approval being fulfilled. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Haley? Councilor Martel?
I'm wondering about the easement. Is this for the retained lands? It says it's for the hydro. But the hydro line's not really near there. The hydro line's in the middle of the field, so I'm wondering where it actually goes.
Through the chair, there is a hydro line that goes to the barn that's there, and it crosses over the severed onto the retained, so it's in the blown up version, it's, yeah, where the mouse is, it's right along the east portion of the property. It's very small,
Okay.
but it's to help if there's any servicing that's required on those lines for both property owners.
Okay, so it's for hydro or for?
Yes, there is another hydro easement that's through Hydro One,
Right.
but this isn't part of the application that's already been established at the time of the hydro being established.
Any other questions? Councilor Vanessa?
Just a couple of questions here. Is there any laneway going in to those bins?
Through the chair, not at this time. I think that they have discussed that they will be putting a new one in, but they will have to go through public works to do that on retained lands.
Okay, and then you mentioned there will be restrictions. If somebody wanted to put more bins up there,
Through the
Future
chair,
one?
yes, as long as like there's no MDS implications, they can put grain bins.
can they put a grain dryer?
Through the chair, I don't see why not.
Just noise to the dust up.
There's nothing in their zoning bylaw that would prevent a farmer from putting a grain dryer.
Okay, and then one last question here, there's a row of T-posts here. So it says here, I think that's what it says, yes. And there's land beside it, is there a reason that's being included? One, with that lot?
I apologize, Dina.
Where it says to be severed, there's the result T post right your side.
Is there a reason this land here is being included with service, and not just this piece here?
Through the chair, yes, the applicants have requested that land, because they use it as a personal like garden and stuff for their property, and they say that they can't fit agricultural equipment in that property.
Those crops in last year.
I did go to property, recently, and they did have, their own personal garden, so they changed it. It is,
But it is farming, just curious
Yes.
why other properties will not allowing extra farmland and this one will down.
through the chair, they said that they can't get their farmland in, and they're squaring off that property and being used for crop personal production. It's still technically in the agricultural.
The problem is, this is the first one I've seen that you're taking extra land, that's my concern. I mean, there's no reason anybody else coming with the next severances can't say the same thing. And it's not that it's a lot of land, I know it's a pain, but it's a little slippery slope, right?
Right.
We're taking extra land here. I realize it squares everything off, it is handy, but you're opening up the opportunity for other severances to allow them to land. So.
How big is it again?
Through the chair, the whole property that's being severed off is 0.64 hectares. It's approximately an acre and a half.
So it meets in there.
Oh, through the chair, also, now that I'm just thinking about it, sorry, they did say that they will be replacing the septic. And to have that extra property on the side would be used for that, and it's honestly beneficial to allow for that land there now, instead of having to come back and do another severance to allow for that land. I apologize, I should have said.
Martin, did you want?
I can also add.
Yes.
The reason for, the extra land is also there's a dug wall there, and the setbacks from a dug wall to a septic system are double what they typically are.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So I have a recommendation that the Township of Perth Council advise Land Division Committee or its delegated authority that the Township of Perth supports B 46-24 submitted by Brydale Farms for lands described as concession 7, part lot 9, municipally known as 5655 line 6, subject to the conditions listed in the report dated December 2nd, 2020. Moved by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, seconded by Councilor Jack Bell. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Hailing. Chris Heiser, you are up. From Perth County CEMC Emergency Management Program update. Welcome.
Mayor Orr, thank you, Deputy members of council, person staff, attendees as well. I'm Chris Heiser. For those of you who don't know me, I am your primary community emergency management coordinator underneath the Emergency Management and Planning Act and our program. I'm also the deputy chief of the EMS. So I've been in our system working with the county for over 20 years now. I took on your community emergency management role earlier this year. I've submitted a report to you to give you an update on the activities that I've taken on this year and that our program committees and our councils have worked together. Just saying, is everybody familiar with the emergency management program? Barely? Okay, good. That makes it way easier. I work with your municipality and your selected individuals to kind of manage a program. I would call this my foundational year, one, getting up to speed on where our program is at, any strengths, weaknesses, gaps that we had. And working towards preparing the program for the update of the modernization of the act itself, which is coming early next year. Last I heard, it's at second reading, and they're hoping to implement it by February, which will mean that we have to kind of go back and different things. This year, your CEMC and myself, we worked on updating our HIRA, which is our hazard and incident risk assessment. And we ended up moving a couple things around in there by looking at them and reassessing how well we are to respond to them, as well as how well planned we are in order to be able to mitigate that and then have business continuity afterwards. One thing that moved up on that list was cybersecurity. So that enabled me to do a bunch of research and actually build a tabletop exercise for all of our ECGs to participate in just back in October, which was well received and went really well. So it was the first time we moved into more of an unseen sort of emergency rather than an environmental emergency such as windstorms and snowstorms, which we're well prepared for in the county. We've also reviewed all of our bylaws, went over them and looked for amendments and changes that we need to make to bylaw. We've also decided that critical infrastructure, which is fuel and different structures, buildings, facilities, we're gonna tackle that one next year after we see what some of the changes are to the act itself, because that will require us to go back and look at the program and make sure that we're updated and stay compliant. Currently, I'm working on your compliance submission, so I submit on behalf of the municipality your compliance submission for the year. For regulatory compliance, I'm about halfway through that, which is good. I'm happy. My deadline is the end of December. So I'm happy to actually be ahead of it. So, and if you have any questions, I'm happy. I won't read my report to you. I'll leave that to you for reading the highlights of this year's program. Those are some of the key elements though that I just wanted to tell you that we're taking care of and we're on top of.
Any questions for Chris? Council Vanessa.
One of the highlights you have here is, focus cyber threat tabletop exercise. And it talks about, cyber related emergency event. What would that be? Like, rumor is that there was a cyber attack in Perth County here in the last couple of weeks. Was that part of this or?
So
Go ahead.
through the mayor to council or the chair, I'm really terrible at addressing it. I usually ask somebody at the time, but, we had, when I initially started, I did a chat with all the groups, and one thing was that cybersecurity was very low on our highway. And so we re-looked at it, as the province launched an update and they wanted to standardize how we did our highways. So we looked at it and it came up very high, that we hadn't practiced it, we hadn't exercised it, we hadn't really talked about it. And that launched me on a 4-month journey of talking to all kinds of municipalities around us that have had cyber issues. And if you do a quick search, you'll see that many municipalities, many businesses have had cyber threats. And so putting that tabletop together was really just our mandate under the act, is to exercise our plans and to actually exercise our ECGs, bring our EOCs together and work through problems in a simulated environment, so that we can go back and make sure we plan to prepare to respond to the real thing. Any cybersecurity incident was not tied to that. It was typically just an exercise that I developed by collaborating with neighboring municipalities that had already gone through it.
So that would be like working with ambulance, paramedics, that type of thing, fire.
For cybersecurity, I dealt with large municipalities, Hamilton, Simcoe County, Guelph, Wellington, I think Oxford County had some stuff that came up after I developed their programs. And looked at some of the impacts that came from cyber incidents in those municipalities. And then I presented them to our ECGs and said, okay, how are we gonna deal with this? How do we keep the bid lights on? How do we keep business continuity? How do we recover? And how do we handle this issue when eventually it just comes to life?
Okay, excellent, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for the question.
Council Martin.
A few years ago, I was able to join one of the tabletop exercise days and it was fantastic. Like, it was so interesting to learn how it works and it just made me feel much more prepared as a counselor should something happen. When you do the tabletops, does that invitation still go out? Or was that just a kind of a one-off where you guys let us in?
So I can't speak.
But
I can't speak to any of the exercises that were performed. I've been tied with emergency management for a number of years in the education side. And so typically the invites go out to the current members of the ECG and program committee who have been appointed by bylaw. I don't see any reason why you couldn't join. And those might be things that we should discuss in the future moving forward as part of the program. We educate our councils, which is one of the reasons why I asked, does everybody know what emergency management is? You know, I'm throwing out a lot of things, CMC, program committee, ECG. There's lots of different terms out there and I'd be happy. There is different courses we can provide for members of council so that you understand the work that's being done, not only by your staff, but by the program itself. So yeah, I'd be happy to look at any option.
Councilor Jeff Bell.
Thank you for the presentation. Recently in Stratford, they ran a live scenario. Was that something that you were involved in? That's different than a tabletop exercise?
So that would be more of a live exercise.
Yeah.
So the city of Stratford has their own emergency management programs and compliance and regulatory requirements, as well as the town of St. Mary's. So they're outside of our regional program. My oversight's for West Perth, Perth East, Perth South, North Perth, and then the county itself. I do work with their CEMCs for different opportunities. I couldn't attend that one this time because it happened to land and we booked them on the exact same day as our own. So, but the rest of the EMS department attended that one, and that would be a live exercise where they also had their EOC training going on at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other questions for Chris? Okay, if not, I have a recommendation here that the emergency management program update report be received for information. Moved by Councilor Corby, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Chris, for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, we are at the Upper Thames Conservation Authority 2026 budget update. Welcome to the council, Tracy and Dean. Appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Well, it's kind of usually.
Yeah, it was in the plan. Yes, didn't finish my thought there.
Teamwork.
Let's get it.
Oh, look, okay. It's in your agenda package on page 319. The very first one is the presentation.
Yeah, I tried to put it first. Tracy was very prolific and provided lots of information.
Thank you so much.
Floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much for having myself and the general manager of the Upper Thames, Tracy and Dean Trentowski as our current chair. So, familiar face to many of you, I'm sure. Jim Craigmile is your representative on our board, representing both the town of St. Mary's, Perth South and South Huron. Unfortunately, he sends his regrets, he's way on vacation. So, otherwise he would be here. There's a number of materials that have been included in your agenda package. This presentation is a little walkthrough, a high level overview, as well as our full package of our draft budget. It's available on page 335. We also have a letter that accompanies the information. We also produce an overview and municipal handout. It's kind of a cheat sheet per se, to give kind of the highlight details for each of our member municipalities. With that. The next slide, then. Thank you, Ken. I always like to remind everyone about the size of, Ken, back one, the map of the Thames River watershed. Certainly as CAs were formed, it was on that provincial municipal partnership and bringing together watershed because that is where water flows and we have very different impacts. Our programs and services are really reflected in this long-standing goal to bring those watershed services and as much value in the form of environmental programming to our municipalities as possible. We always leverage that investment that municipalities make to provide that return on investment and enter into a number of different partnerships, all with the goal again to deliver those programs and services that benefit our broader watershed as a whole. Next slide. As you recall from previous years, we have had to oblige to legislative amendments that require us to categorize our programs and services. We have our mandatory programs and services that are through legislation. And they are things where municipal levy can be applied. We have non-mandatory programs and services where municipalities have the responsibility to undertake those programs and services, but request us to deliver those programs and services on their behalf. And then we have our other programs and services, and those are those programs that are deemed advisable, that are guided through our watershed strategy and really reflect the watershed as a whole. And those are where we have agreements in place to carry out those programs. Next slide, Ken. Thank you. With our budget development, we have a number of factors that we considered. Of course, we want stability in delivering our mandatory programs and services at the current service level. Cost of living adjustments, of course, we have pay increases and a number of newer staff that are also having step increases before they're at job rate. We're certainly seeing inflation. But particularly when we're dealing with maintenance and some of our assets, we're seeing construction price increases in inflation since 2023 in the neighborhood of 14.5%. So that's a huge increase we're seeing in some of those projects that we have ongoing. We have multi-year contracts, and one of them most notably is the Canada Water Agency funding. But we have other funding partners that are either multi-year or follow the fiscal funding years too. So we've included those in our budget. We have some staffing, a little bit of staffing to deal with some succession planning and senior positions specifically to ensure continuity. One of those positions is about our dam maintenance mechanics. We want to make sure we've got qualified, knowledgeable staff who are familiar with our unique infrastructure that we have in our dams. And then we also are anticipating that the fees freeze for any development applications dealing with our planning and regulation program. We're anticipating that would be extended. And that was the minister's direction from a couple of years ago. So not anticipating any fees increases in that. Next slide, Ken. With our operating budget, we'll see in the package as well. We separate out those categories of programs and services. We've currently projected a 49K deficit in our budget. We always anticipate that there'll be some additional funds that come in. I think most recently our WSIB rebates, and we can start applying those back to some of our category 1 programs. Category 2 programs and services are generally balanced, a slight surplus, and that was planned, knowing that it would be used in subsequent years. Our category 3 programs that are aside from our campgrounds, we are anticipating a deficit right now in those programs. Again, we have a number of funding applications that either come in at the end of the year or early in the new year, and we've been quite successful at being competitive for those grant dollars to provide and leverage to promote programs and services in those areas. For category 3 programs, we do have some surpluses in our campgrounds. We have 3 big parks with a lot of aging infrastructure, and those dollars will be used for some capital improvements of the plan. With the next slide, I always like to put in the context of the overall funding amounts. Certainly, when we're looking at our operating levies from our member municipalities, shown in that dark blue, percent amount there, in the neighborhood of $82,000. The self-generating amount, again, very much balanced with that, and the rate is 9 million. And then where we go after those contracts, either through our federal grants and contracts and provincial contracts that we apply for. Those aren't just transfer payments. Those are things that we're going down, we're putting our programs and services up there and have been quite successful. We do have provincial transfer payments shown there as well. For the Conservation Authorities Act, everything that's mandatory, that $181,213 hasn't changed over the last number of years. We also have our provincial transfer payment under the Clean Water Act, and that amount not only supports the Upper Thames, but also St. Clair and the Lower Thames, because it is for the Thames and Sydenham Source Protection Region and delivering our programs under the Clean Water. The next slide kind of highlights the operating expenses. When you look at where our expenses are, it's over half our amounts are for those category 1 programs. Everything from planning and regulations and water management at our dams, our land management activities, provincial water quality monitoring network, our drinking water source protection requirements, the implementation of our watershed strategy, and essential corporate costs as well. We do have a number of category 2 programs for primarily in risk management for drinking water source protection. And we have some municipal contract work for land management activities, particularly in the city of London for their environmentally sensitive areas. Our category 3 programs as well are listed with our land stewardship, our community partnership and education, additional ecology monitoring, and a broader water quality database management. We not only do for ourselves, but provide a hub for the CAs in the region. And then the land use management. And then the portion there as well with the expenses related to campgrounds, where we have been able to see some revenue generation. Next slide. With our capital budget, we have lots of work planned, again, just even to maintain aging infrastructure. Much of our structures have been built in the mid-50s and 60s, and that's consistent across the province. So as we all know, aging infrastructure needs some attention. We do see those costs change significantly depending on benefiting municipalities. We have some municipalities that are almost entirely responsible for a structure. For example, the City of London is entirely responsible for Fanshawe Dam and a large portion of Wildwood Dam. So certain municipalities see a lot more capital costs. Noted as well that range in what we're seeing in building construction price for the London area. But we always apply for alternative sources of funding. There's the Water and Erosion Control Infrastructure Funding, the WECI program. It's a $5 million pot, but that serves the entire province of Ontario. And as noted, as conservation authorities, we all have aging infrastructure primarily built after Hurricane Hazel. So that pot's pretty small with the amount of upgrades that are needed. So. And then certainly when we know that we have additional funds received, we update our budget to reflect those dollars accordingly. So next slide. In Perth South, there's a small benefit-based amounts for both Wildwood and Piddock in the neighborhood of $818. To highlight that. The next slide really shows and the distribution of where those costs are between general levy and benefit-based amounts, as well as what is operating versus what is capital. The amounts are shown there for Perth South and highlighted in the boxes over the broader amounts for each municipality overall. So you can see that operating and capital very well balanced. Yeah, depending on where those benefit-based structures levies are, there's just a small amount that's distributed amongst all municipalities. Most of it is for those benefit-based amounts. Next slide. When we see levy changes from 2025, again, very much driven by where modified current value assessment is. As communities grow, change, we see that distribution. And those numbers are provided from the province that we apply to our budget. So overall, we have a 4.9% change when it comes to the general levy. When we have cost apportionment support from our municipalities, that changes about 4.3%. And certainly when it's related to operations and major repairs, 0.6% increase. Overall, looking at our overall budget from last year, this year, the change is 9.7% with all municipalities. Next slide. With our cost apportioning agreements, those are the category 3 programs. Some familiar faces there. We delivered landowner stewardship programs throughout the municipality. The tree power program, 4th year, a very successful program with 250 trees given out for very affordable trees, I would say. Our additional sub-watershed planning and monitoring, again, that information filed in the report card the team brought along helps to make science-based decisions. We have a number of aquatic sampling sites for both fisheries and benthic. 4 fish surveys in Perth South and 11 benthic samplings, again, informs water quality. And have some significant species as well, with the black red horse and silver shiner in your municipality. So that's great to see. Community outreach and education, we try to empower communities and youth. In this past year, we had the Perth County Children's Water Festival in St. Mary's, but again, that brings in communities from all over the region. We also support the library programs. We have 3 park passes at each of St. Mary's and Stratford libraries that allows municipalities or members within your municipalities to sign out a park pass at the library and attend one of our parks with free entry. So with that, and when we're talking about stewardship and restoration, our planning, our monitoring programs and outreach, it kind of all accumulates with the our Southern Ontario Reptiles at Risk program. And Jim was fortunate to come to our day with our municipal partners to learn more about that program. Next slide, please. Just wanted to highlight the stewardship projects in particular in Perth South. This past year, we've had 44 projects and just over 5,000 trees planted in Perth South. The number of projects is significant. We had a number of acres, just over 6,500 acres restored or enhanced, primarily through cover crop plantings and nutrient management programs, with total projects costs over almost $350,000. And cost share that went back out to your local residents and families just over $250,000. That's significant. So again, when you look at the contribution by Perth South, it was around $7,444. Really leveraging those dollars to make sure that there's programs and services like this provided to the municipality. Next slide. And this is our draft budget, so there's the communication materials included as well. We circulate that to all of our member municipalities at the beginning of November and October after our October budget or October meeting of our board of directors. It has that overview that includes that operating levy, the benefit-based capital amounts and cost apportionment amounts for each municipality. And then about doing presentations to councils for requested either councils or budget committees. And with any input received, I bring back to our board in a report in January. And then in February at our AGM, that's when our budget's considered. At least that's the plan right now. I'll say to the next slide, future budgets. A lot of uncertainties. You may have heard that there is a new proposed Lake Erie Regional Conservation Authority. That plan is to amalgamate 8 existing conservation authorities, all shown in the light pink there. That includes the Grand, Long Point, ourselves, Catfish Kettle, Lower Thames, Essex Region, and the St. Clair Region. Making up 81 member municipalities, down from our 17 right now. There's a lot of things. Yes, there was a new agency created, through the budget bill, which was passed last week, to create an oversight agency governed by the province. We're not sure what, 5 to 12 representatives will be on that board. We're not sure how those appointments will be made. And then when it comes to these larger Lake Erie regional boards, we're told there will be municipal representation. However, big change from having the knowledge around our boardroom table with our members like Dean, who are familiar with their work with rural and agricultural communities, and having that being represented by 81. Yeah, when we're talking about having large urban centers like Windsor, Sarnia, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, and amongst others, it goes all the way up to just outside Orangeville. We're really concerned about continuing to have those connections on the ground, that rural voice, at these new proposed areas. Certainly there are things that can be improved. I think there's existing legislation that can standardize things, and some new tools that can be provided to conservation authorities if the goal is faster permits. Our permit record was 99% of our permits were achieved within the provincial guideline, and our average last year for permits was between 6 and 9 days turnaround of getting a complete application. And that's consistent across our region. So these changes, just very much concerned about how municipalities like Purcell will be heard, to engage and to prioritize what programs and services are needed. And that was the basic tenet of CA's formation in the first place, was hearing from local municipalities and being able to hear programs and services. That dilution of those local voices in such a big region is a great concern. So with that, next slide, and certainly have any questions. A few photos highlighting the Tree Tower days and some of the PD Day workshops we do with the museum. So, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Give your hand up.
Yeah, I do, sorry. I have to select it. Okay, so I just have a couple quick questions. Going back to the new proposed Lake Erie Regional, the mapping doesn't quite show, is Perth as fully in that one, or can you see we're half and half?
No, you're fully within.
Fully within?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I can add there, we won't be fully in though,
Sorry.
because we have some of South Bayfield.
Oh, yes, in that one.
By purchase, and that would be in a different, CA or whatever, that would be, there's a small area there.
Very small.
Yeah. Roughly equivalent to the Sawmill Bayfield. Where our CA is now.
The existing
Yes.
South Bayfield will be part of it, yeah, that would include a small amount.
Okay. Thank you. Also, I'm wondering how many trees did Upper Thames plant on their own land in First Step this year?
I don't have that number right off the top of my
We ask it
head.
every year.
You know what? I have a spreadsheet, but I could look it up, but on our own land, that's the piece where.
On our own,
On
on
our
our
Upper
own,
Thames land.
planted, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But I have the broader number for the entire municipality, and the numbers for the tree power program. But I have to look up which ones we're planting on our own land. I don't know if we did as much planting on our own land this year because we are working on a demonstration farm. So a lot of our staff have been engaged in getting that up. So some wildwood, we do have a new demonstration farm. again, to highlight some agricultural phosphorus reduction practices. And so that's kind of been the focus of this year.
Yeah, for these cities though.
So my final question, so I was interested to see that there's a surplus in campgrounds, because we've seen over the years that there can be deficits in the past where they lost money. So I'm curious, how did that happen? Was it over budgeted, or was there increased revenue that came in through the campgrounds?
If I can through the mayor, to the counselor, we have seen since COVID, a significant increase in, camping and getting out in nature as a whole. So really seeing that we have been doing some capital improvements at our campground as well. Hydro's been a big one. People have larger trailers, and need those 30 amp services. So being able to provide more 30 amp services is drawn in and filling those spaces that, in the past may not have been desirable for the camping people are accustomed to under today's standards. So a few things like that. Yeah, we're really trying to increase our programming as well, at our campgrounds. But I think COVID, a lot of people kind of rediscovered their connections to nature, and we're really trying to foster so with having upgraded facilities to be able to attract more.
The campgrounds have become, as Tracy's mentioned, the campgrounds have become wildly popular with people. The idea of the staycation has been extended to the campgrounds, and as Tracy mentioned, there's been a very significant influx of users coming into the campgrounds. And staff has reported to the board that as a result, staff have identified areas where the infrastructure needs to be improved and enhanced to accommodate that popular use. So that's so there's a lot of capital infrastructure that will be invested in using the proceeds that we've received so far from campgrounds. It's going back into the campgrounds to bring that up to speed.
Are the campgrounds self-sufficient now? Are they self-funded?
Yes, and again, through the mayor, yeah, they always have been, they've always very much kept the campgrounds as a separate entity. But yeah, certainly saw that, there were some years when weather did not cooperate and people were tenting more than, that, we're seeing some deficits, but again, I think the trying to shift in people's recognition and camping experiences, that, we've been able to see some surpluses.
Deputy Mayor Will.
Yes, a couple comments and a question. I'm very interested to see what the composition of the new board will be for the proposed Lake Erie Regional, and concerned how much input our area will have. The second comment is I'm very pleased to see that you're promoting tree planting, and I know I participate in, and it's a great way to get trees in the ground in Perth South, I think. And on the news, it was reported that the city of London got a decrease in their levy this year. However, everyone else got an increase. Why is that?
If I could clarify through the mayor, with the city of London, they follow a different budget process in that they have a 4-year multi-year budget. So we have provided projections for the following 4 years. What they had requested was a reduction in the projected budget increase. It was around 6.9% projected, I believe, 6.8, something like that. And we've brought that down. And because we brought it down from London, again, it's about proportionate. That amount was spread, and those reductions were provided to all of our member municipalities. So again, we're seeing that overall average just under 5% now. So yeah, it was again, what the city of London had a reduction in, that same amount was applied everywhere into all of our municipalities. So that's where that comes from.
And if I could, through you, Mayor, or to your question, Bob, as Tracy pointed out, a lot of, when you go through the budget documents, you'll see that, or at least in the board discussions of the budget, there's a great number, a great dollar amount of capital projects that were scheduled for London. Those have been deferred. And that has a
direct relationship on their, on the benefit side of their levy. And the other, idea to consider as well is, when the city of London receives the general levy, they assign some of that levy not to the, I'll say to the tax requisition, but it's diverted into water, wastewater rates. So they have a different way of, distributing the levy through their budget. So it appears that their levy has been decreased one area, but every area in their wastewater user rates will be going up, or it will be pushed up by the reassignment of the dollars. So hopefully that helps explain the situation there. And I guess to your comment, go back, composition of the board, of the future board that's proposed, that's a great concern to the board of directors that represent. The local voice will be lost. If, well, should this proceed to fruition, and the minister made their announcement on October 31st at 10 a.m. The 36 conservation authorities, the general managers and their chairs were invited to a Teams meeting by the ministry at 8 a.m. on the 31st. We were given the heads up 2 hours prior to. There was no forewarning, there was no discussion, there was no pre-consultation on this change. And the only time since then was November 18th, as we had a 1-hour Teams meeting with the ministry, again, the 36 CA GMs, 36 chairs, 1 hour for them to present, to follow up on the minister's announcement. That took about 35 minutes, and the other 25 minutes was assigned for questions. The majority of those questions, the ministry staff did not have suitable answers. And there were some questions that were asked, and I talked to some colleagues afterwards. There were some questions that were asked that the ministry staff and the Teams meeting refused to consider. So there are way more questions than answers. The concerns are great. We share your concern about the competition. We don't know. We're still waiting to find out. There's local roundtable discussions that the ministry will be hosting later this month. I believe ours comes up Friday of next week. So we will be asking those same questions that you pose right now. Thank you.
Councilor Gordon?
Yeah, I talked to Tracy before the meeting and I asked, was there any numbers on cost savings for realigning the province? But like Tracy said, there's so much gray area right now, there's no answers.
They through the mayor, they have, Councilor Corby, they have not presented a business case.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no details. That will be later, but.
And you Upper Towns will lose its board. Like, there will only be one voice in a smaller.
Seven to 12 people over this wide geographical area. It's the same, yeah, when I described this to my colleagues at West Perth Council last night, I used two analogies. Say if Mr. Reynolds at the building department had difficulties with processing permits, it's just hypothetical. Why would it be necessary to amalgamate the 4 lower tiers of Perth County in order to improve the permitting service of Mr. Bell's department? Why is that necessary? Like Tracy mentioned, conservation authorities are in favor of a digital permit online portal system. We're in favor of streamlined applications. We just need the additional financial tools to make it happen. We're happy to do that, but we don't understand the need to reorganize the entire structure to achieve that goal. And with this regional philosophy, it's akin to the local bank being shut down, pulled out of town. Then you have to drive 2 hours to the next bank or call 1-800 number for customer support and maybe wait on the phone for 2 hours. Maybe you'll get an answer, maybe you won't. That's
those are like, that's where our heads are at right now. We're trying to figure this out, but the ministry just hasn't been very forthcoming with the business case or any of these other details that we're concerned about.
I just had one more question. In your budget lines, there's technical and consulting, so that's outside. Is that all outside work that's brought in? You don't have it within your own organization to do certain things?
Through the mayor, to Councillor Corbett, certainly some of those items for technical consultants are related to, having a update of our, payroll system, as I hope, so, and technical. Yes, we do have, some outside help with our maintaining our systems. And of course, when we're doing some upgrades to servers and things like that are proposed. But those are very specific items in our budget line right now. Again, our draft budget was produced in October. This announcement came on October 31st. So these budgets, what we're told is that everything is the status quo for 2026. But at the end of 2026, when municipal elections happen, instead of municipalities appointing a new representative to be on our board of directors, this new amalgamated, and this is where we have no idea how municipalities will be appointed in the future with these large regions. I'd also point out that I noticed on your letter, your consent agenda 6.22 included a letter from the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry. And I provided correspondence through the clerk the end of last week, again highlighting some of the concerns that we have with these large regional amalgamations, and asking for letters of support from our member municipalities. Our language and text in the resolution is very much aligned with what the consent item, the letter from United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry had prepared. But raising these issues, again, there hasn't been cost benefit analysis to demonstrate this. We're happy to oblige to any streamlining and standardization. We need some improved tools. The province wants more standardization. We've been asking for updated technical guidance on how, everything from updates in how floodplain mapping should be done, to consideration of flood fringe areas. And again, standardization can be done through legislative changes and providing us the tools to do so. But just worried about the entire basis of CAs and having that local connection. And feeling that will be lost. Councillor Marco?
The city of London has a separate budget process. I'm just wondering how that is.
Through the mayor to Councillor Marco. The city, and like all municipalities, I think, their own budget processes. We have some of our larger urban centers that do either a multi-year budget or do an annual budget with several year forecast. So the city is, I think this is the second term that they've done a multi-year budget process. And they, Tracy's not our head in accounting. Again, it's for them to better align with their asset management planning as well, to make sure that some of their capital investments, like they're forecasting costs out. They asked us to do the same. We always provide the following year amounts in our budget, so the 2027 forecast, and it's a little questionable right now. But when we're talking about some of our large infrastructure, certainly with the City of London, they have West London Dykes as well. There's a multi-million-dollar project for the next phase of that construction. We have a 20-year capital plan. So we've always provided a forecast on some of those asset management related expectations for maintenance and ongoing replacement. In the case of the dikes, they're actually replacing sections of the dikes. So that helps inform the budgeting process. So again, it's up to every municipality how they wish to do that, but we usually have a pretty good handle when the capital projects in London are a good driver of their budgets as well.
Thank you.
Over on this side, Councillor Jeff Bell.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So again, I don't have the background here. 5,084 trees planted in percent this year. Is that on par with previous years, higher, lower?
It's through Mayor Orr. Council Jack Bell. I think that's a little bit higher. I think it was around 4,800 last year, if memory serves, but it's typically around that. I think we're seeing some increases again because of some of the additional cost share programs that we have running, and we have a number of different streams of that program. And one of those is about planting trees, naturalizations. We also have been able to participate in it's a habitat stewardship fund. Again, because some of the species that are in Perth South, so we've seen some naturalization projects and wetland creation projects as well. So yeah, it changes each year. We're always looking for land to partner with so that we can continue to increase those numbers. And I think my staff were telling me that when we're looking at the broader amount of program hectares that Perth South have had, or either in the nutrient management program or cover crop program, some of these naturalization projects, it accounts for about 15% of the total within our watershed. So that's significant. You guys are doing a great job, and we really appreciate the partnerships that we've had throughout your communities to deliver these important programs.
If not one.
Yes.
So you also mentioned a lot of the infrastructure came out of right at postings. So all that infrastructure is aging, was saying that, right? Are you relying on an asset management plan to prioritize, or are you putting it fires as needed?
To the mayor, to the council, yes, we have an asset management plan, prescriptive for our flood and erosion control infrastructure. We'd always had a 20-year capital plan, but we really formalized it in the same veins of the asset management plan that the municipalities do, and noting the things, trying to keep things in a state of good repair. But that has always informed kind of our projects. The one thing we also do as dam owners are dam safety reviews. And so recommendations of those dam safety reviews that get incorporated into our asset management plan. And there's sometimes some unexpected things that come up, of course, with all aging infrastructure, but that's what we use as a guide for our budgeting process.
And if I may further to you, Mayor, or to Councilor Jeff Bell's question, over the past, I'll say 2 years now, the board has made a commitment to not only address the needs of an asset management plan, but also through the board and through the finance and audit committee, come up with a strategy for the money, not only operating reserves, but capital reserves as well. So that it's all tied together, the asset management plan and the finances, the budget, they're all interwoven together. So these are things of great concern and require great attention. And again, going back to Bill 68, Bill 68 casts a shadow over those local efforts to maintain local infrastructure. But as Tracy said, it's business as usual. We're going to continue doing what the board will continue to do what it feels it's necessary to carry out the duties that are and responsibilities that are assigned to it until the province tells us it's time to stop doing that. So thank you.
Cool. If I can add on to exactly what Ian had said, that's one of the questions as well. When we're talking about our reserve funds, we do have specified reserves for our infrastructure, for each municipal infrastructure, but our own assets. We're doing that with the build up into these new regional CAs. And I think that's a huge concern for many of our municipalities who've been funding things locally. What will the priorities be in the future with these large amalgamated regions? Will things start to get shifted to other areas that are deemed the priority by this new board and really not where they were intended to be in the first place? Certainly a concern.
Councilor Vanessa, do you have a question?
Yeah, a couple questions, actually. Just start off there, I'm chuckling here that there's so much concern about this new bill. It's kind of the feeling we've had in Perth South. I mean, London has 65% of the budget, Stratford's almost 10. I mean, we've always felt that we've never been heard in the conservation upper towns, and now you're scared with the new one, that you're not gonna be heard either. But it's kind of interesting. I have no idea if it's good or bad one, I guess we'll find out. The second question I have, and I apologize, I didn't bring the sheet with me. How far is Upper Thames along with selling some of the lands? They had purchased lands for the Motherwell Dam years and years ago. And they've never sold those farmlands yet, they're hanging on to them. And I see they're renting the houses out for between $100 and $250 a month. It makes no sense to me why that land hasn't been sold yet.
If I can through the mayor, Councilor Jana, the first comment you had, I would say that with Perth South, yeah, we do have representation on the board with Jim Craigmile. And I think having councillors sit on a board, and being able to bring that information back has been helpful. Again, it is currently based on representation by population. So there are going to be some municipalities that, even larger municipalities that will not have say in this new system. Which I really feel is very unfortunate. I think our efforts that we've shown in the slide at the table, there's certainly a lot of work going on in person. You know, that's something that we've heard from residents. We're bringing those programs and services out to the community, and a significant amount of it is happening on the landscape in person. So it really reflects that those dollar amounts that you're helping to provide to run this as an organization are getting back out to the community and coming back into your local areas and to farmers that want to partner to deliver these programs and services. So significantly, I think that's probably one of the higher areas when, you know, you see those investments being leveraged. The follow-up question related to our lands, last year, we finished our land management strategy, our inventory of our lands, and our acquisition and disposition policy. There are a few properties that we've highlighted to move forward on, and we have direction from our board of directors. Those were planned in the new year. So, but I'm not going to say any further about that until we have a full approval from the board on the land selected and the time for when any distributions will occur.
Sure, thank you. One more question. Can you put that slide back up from First South? It was 4 or 5. That was Mr. Richard Price. Yes, thank you. So total acres restored, you mentioned 6,500. I assume most of that was cover crops and under the phosphorus reduction program.
There were a significant amount of both cover crops and nutrient management, but then also a large amount under the Habitat Stewardship Fund as well.
Right. So those funds came to Perth South, but they were all taxed to the federal government. It's just we're getting our taxes back. Is all this. It's just a big round circle of tax money. There's no new money. Most of the money conservation works with is grants or whatever that eventually comes from taxes. Right? I mean, there's no found money. It all starts at taxes. So the question I had last year, we had this phosphorus program, which my son actually was involved with, putting phosphorus underground. There was an announcement from Upper Thames that I believe we saved between 5 and 6 tons of phosphorus from going into Lake Erie. The concern I have is that of that 5-6 tons, the city of Stratford produced over 2 tons of phosphorus from their overflows, their managed overflows from their sewage pump. I'm sure London was much more, so I'm wondering, although it's great for publicity, I absolutely do not believe it's the right place to be spending the money. I mean, and I said this last year, Tracy, we had Southern Crop doing all this. All we've done is taken a bunch more money, taking 15% off their overhead, and we're giving the same funds with much more overhead out. The phosphorus program, my real concern, and I apologize, did not send this question to you, so you don't have to answer today, but I would like an answer is, the new phosphorus program. A farmer has to send in a plan from a certified crop agronomist, a CCA. And they have to send in their soil tests. I'm struggling to understand why they have to send their soil tests in. Because I've talked to a couple of CCAs, they're not happy at all. So more or less Upper Thames is saying, we don't trust you. Why does Upper Thames want soil tests? Talking to people who've immigrated here from Europe, this is the first step eventually. The conservation authorities or the Ontario government saying, you don't need these fertilizers. We know better than you. And I would like to get that answer, because that program last year did not even give that oversight. I can't believe there's a single farmer out there, the costs we have today is spending any more money than they have to on phosphorus. Like, it makes no sense, and yet all these new rules and regulations are coming out.
Would you like to answer that, or would you like to?
I prefer to get us time to get it. I apologize, I didn't get that question.
To be fair, I could certainly have staff follow up on some of those details. I do know that there was a couple new funding streams tied specifically to soil testing and the crop nutrient planning. And so having a soil test, again, it's part of the eligible items for funding, and it's that check mark to confirm that, yeah, what was planned is actually working. But a more fulsome analysis and details can be provided by our.
And Upper Thames will delete all that information as soon as they have it and see it.
Through the mayor, I'll certainly have staff follow up to provide more details on how the program works. With the information that we're obtaining.
Well, through you, Mayor, or to Councilor Vanessa's comments. My question would be, has anyone, given the concerns that you've raised, Councilor Vanessa, has anyone from this council addressed those same questions to the city of Stratford, and the city of London directly? That would be my suggestion. One suggestion is to raise those concerns to those organizations and find out what their response is. The authority cannot regulate what their outputs are. I believe that's through the Ministry of Environment. The authority does not have direct control over those operations. I believe we can comment, but we cannot direct. So we're unable to, I guess, enforce what they do. Secondly, I'm not convinced that there's an ulterior motive on the behalf of the authority. I think your questions about the overall strategy would probably be best directed to those providing the funding, and that would be the federal government, to find out what their true intent is. The authority pursued, Tracy can probably provide more details, but in the 2-3 years of my experience on the board, the authority pursues these funding opportunities as a way to help improve situation with local landowners. And by pursuing those opportunities and obtaining that funding, not only can the authority provide the programming, but some of that money is also used to offset costs to the authority in other areas not related to the program. So there's different motivations for the authority to pursue the funding, but the motivation of the authority is not to undermine the integrity of the local landowner insofar as the control of their properties or anything like that. But I'm sure there'd be more information come from Tracy to answer your questions. But I guess I'm just trying to say there's no malintent involved here. So,
Well, if you talk to any farmer that has immigrated from the last 20 years from Europe, they'll say that's exactly how it started here. And they're probably.
That's a point of conjecture, so.
That's, I'm gonna thank you for your time here today, and I do appreciate it. It's a huge report, and there's a lot of things, and I feel your stress with the new changes coming. So, but thank you for taking the opportunity to come here today. And I have a recommendation here that the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority budget presentation be received for information. Note 5, Counselor Jethwell, second by Counselor Martin, all those in favor? All those opposed? Carries. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have Martin's report. We're gonna take a small break. 8.1. Your report is on the floor. We're at.
Great, thank you, Mayor Orr, members of council, my reports before you there. We had a fairly strong month, last month. 10 new permits were issued, in November. Just over 4.6 million in construction value and over 22,000 permit fees. You can see here the year over year, numbers there from November of 24 till now, and you can see the significant increases here it's presenting. So the month also had 40 building inspections, and we still have several applications in the queue waiting issuance. There's one new bylaw enforcement and property standards issued for the month. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Martin? It is a significant, okay. go
Yeah,
ahead.
I do, can I ask you a question not really related to the report?
Depends what the question.
I know through the report.
Okay. Go ahead, these two.
Okay. I talked to you before and asked, I'm wondering about a report to council about secondary dwellings that have come in the last 3 years.
Sure.
I think, as part of our overall strategic plan about adding population to Perth South, we might want to focus on encouraging secondary dwellings, and it does seem you anecdotally said that there was quite a few of them had come up. So if we could, when you have time, I know you're incredibly busy, I know this from both sides currently. If when you have time, if you could provide us a bit of insight as to how many secondary dwellings came in since that legislation changed.
Sure.
And, yeah, I wonder if we can get a list of how many residences we had before, like maybe now it's not through you, but if we had 400,000 would be bad if this was like.
Sure.
Just to
I'd be happy-
facilitate a discussion when staff thinks we have time to do that.
Great.
Absolutely, yeah, I'd be happy to do that in time permits.
So 2020.
And I could be wrong here, but that number, the 62 million something, that's extremely high. I've not seen that number at this.
We're having a record here,
Yeah.
and even the permit fees collected, we've never collected that thing.
Right, okay, well, good job.
Giving some back.
Great job. Yeah. Thank you. All right, I will let you go back to work, the CBO.
Not yet.
Well,
It's gonna-
all right.
You can do the motion.
Okay, so the CBO update report you received for information, move 5, Councilor Margot, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, all those in favor, any opposed, carried. And we are at a report for shared services agreement with Perth East.
Yes, or, before you, it's report for exactly what, was just said, is the shared services agreement with Perth East. We have, several municipal or, reciprocal agreements with neighboring municipalities. We use them for plans review, inspections of construction permits or issuance of permits when times are extremely busy or for vacations and that sort of thing. We've always had, or not always had, but we've had a reciprocal agreement with Perth East in the past, and this is just a renewal of that agreement. So I would recommend the council approve this agreement.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Marco?
Just the rates, are those just, who sets those rates in from January 1st, 2026 through the 2030? Is that a day rate? Is that a hourly rate? What is that?
That's a day rate. There are provisions in that bylaw where half days can be used. Yeah, and those rates are carried over from the last agreement plus the CPI as well. So
Thank you.
Councilor Fernandez?
Do we have a reciprocal agreement that's in place also?
this we
It's just on a different time frame where we sign that.
I don't know if there's an end date to that.
Thank you.
All right, any, seeing no further questions, I have a recommendation that the council approve the renewal of the shared services agreement between the Township of Perth South and the Township of Perth East. Moved by Counselor Vanessa, second by Counselor Martel. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, let's take a 5-minute break. And then come back. All right, we are at 8.2. Director of Public Works, Ken, you have the floor.
Mayor, or I see if I can get it.
All right, so Susan Budden is joining us by Zoom.
Good morning.
Oh,
sorry. We just got Susan on the Zoom meeting here, just in case, council has any questions for her. She was, available to meet, through Zoom, just in case. So I have a report here for council. It's a follow-up from our previous meeting. Council had asked me to, follow up with some additional information on the Aqua, services agreement. I had followed up with some of our neighboring municipalities as requested, and there was no interest at this time for any of the neighboring municipalities to take over the operation of our water systems. However, per these might be interested in the future. They're especially interested in if we do end up getting a new sewage treatment plant that kind of mirrors the one they already have and operate. That's something they could be interested in helping us with in the future. If, you know, if everything works out, you know, they had concerns there, they wanna make sure they're able to serve their existing producing customers and residents first. That would be a priority, but that's something for in the future, if and when we get the sewage treatment plant operating. So just follow up. My recommendation is to go back to the original report with it had a 5-year term for the renewal.
All right, so we've had this discussion before, welcoming any new questions. Anybody have any questions for Ken regarding Aqua? And Susan is also available here. Councilor Vanessa.
Yeah, I have one question for, I guess, Susan. In the new agreement, 4.3, Aqua must give renewal price within 6 months of the beginning of the final year. So was that in the old agreement also?
Did you?
Through the chair, yes, that is standard language in the contract. So yes, that would be in there as well.
So should we not have had that new costing July 1st, 2024? Not September or October of 2025?
I believe this was a question that was raised previously, and I have had conversations with Ken regarding the timelines. It was something that we did discuss earlier on in the year. I can't comment on why the price was not provided within the 6-month period. I'd have to look into that, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if Ken can speak to that. I know we did have conversations earlier on at one of the conferences regarding the renewal. I don't believe we did ever receive documentation 12 months prior to the termination date. So that's something that we'll need to look into as well.
Do you want to respond at all?
I think Susan's got kind of the similar answer that I would have. Fred and I had been in discussions with Susan and on Aqua on the upcoming renewal. In advance, I don't know if we got any of this updated pricing until later, but we did have the standard cost of living increases included, I think, through the original contract to renew that. This is a new contract.
I'm just trying to
renewal.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand where I guess where the disconnect is. I mean, we had a Watson report come out this fall, and it didn't have any of the new costing in it. And that should have all been available to them. So I'm not sure if it wasn't given from Perth South, or it wasn't given from Aqua. I'm just trying to understand the disconnect here.
Would you like to comment?
Yes, through the mayor, I wouldn't so much I guess frame it as a disconnect. I think there were a lot of things happening at the same time. You had your Watson report, you had Aqua's contract coming in. I could be corrected by Ken, but I think it was early October when the pricing was finally here.
Yeah, I think that's about the time of September, October.
Yeah, that was September, early October.
Which was, yeah, kind of just after the financial plans were done.
Right.
But the contract says it had to be here July 1st. So I don't.
It potentially could have been with Fred here, but I don't know,
No. Okay, thank you.
Now, Deputy Mayor,
Yes, if we were to accept this contract, will we have to do a new financial plan for both water systems?
Crazy Mayor, I have done that through, the senior one. I didn't do it through the St. Paul's one, but, that's something we could maybe look at next year when we do the budget, that we, update that percentage. We went, if we ran correctly, council agreed to lower, the rate from what Watson has suggested. So maybe, in the fall next year, we bring back, a new study, our new rate, spreadsheet with maybe where we should be at the St. Paul's, especially coming in with, when we know exactly what the well's going to cost and like that, and new users coming on, and like that.
Councilor Martin? I'm wondering if we would be open to looking at a 3-year term instead of a 5-year term. I also had an opportunity to speak with Perth East, at Municipal Day actually, and they indicated that within 3 years, they were hoping to be in a much different place to be able to take this on, which would also give us some time to do the work I've requested in the report. I would like to see if we do approve this, it move back to 3 years instead of 5. And also whether that report was with Fred or not, Aqua should be able to tell us when they provided that budgeting item. Whether it came in October or June.
Through Mayor, I had talked with Susan about the term of the agreement yesterday there, and Aqua was acceptable to whatever term that person would like. I was recommending the 5-year term. There is some exit termination clause in there. If something does change or we do want to, we could exercise that.
Would we be getting a better rate at 5 years? I guess you don't know.
I think we're locked in at the rate for 5 years, whereas in 3 years, there could be, Aqua would have the opportunity then to increase more than the cost of living. So the 5-year locks us in at the pricing versus how we can redo in 3 years. That makes sense.
Any other questions, Councilor Corbin?
My view on it, and I've talked to staff about it, Aqua's a not-for-profit, it's provincially run, they do a great job, the service is really good. I'm not sure why we'd want to. We can look at other vendors, but at the end of the day, it's about protecting the liability of us and the clients. So to me, I would rather, I was at the beginning there, like at a 3-year, but at the end of 5 years with the new subdivision coming on, hopefully someday those 2 water systems can connect it and the cost will go down for the Boyce Street people. But we don't know that yet. There's a lot of things that we're not sure of yet, so I'm not sure. I like the way Aqua's, the job they've done, the service is quick and they look after us really well. I just think that if we do a 3-year and then there's a price increase at the end of 3 years, why would we risk that? Just do a 5-year, and like I talked to Ken about it, there's always some it can be amended, like we added Kirkton and that was an amendment. There's always chances to change on the go, if that's true, so it's not like we're solidly locked into no change in a 5-year contract.
Any other questions for Ken or Susan? Oh, sorry.
I would just like to, echo Councillor Courtney's comments. At the end of the day, I think, all of us in this room have a certificate from Aqua, as part of our responsibilities, so it makes sense to me to go with the most experienced and the most trusted. You know, I'm also just looking at, 5 years could be a different time. But I think it makes sense to enter into a 5-year relationship.
Any other questions, Councillor Vanessa?
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Mark. I would much sooner have a 3-year agreement. I believe there's opportunity in this contract right now. If wages are changed by the Ontario government for public services, our contract goes up. There's nothing locked in stone in this contract. Costs can go up, even if this is what we sign, it can go up if the public union gets more money, our costs are gonna go up too, so. I don't see any concern about going 3 years or 5. In 3 years from now, we will have much better idea what's going on, and according to this contract. A year before, only 2 years away from now, we'll have an opportunity to look at different options. And nothing against Aqua, absolutely nothing, but just to keep our options a little more open. I'm just disappointed we didn't have this opportunity to see some of this stuff more than a year ago.
Councillor Markville?
Is she gonna stay on or for a little bit longer, or can I ask a question just about our accounts? I don't know.
Our accounts?
Yeah, because they're on there a couple times just for additional services, and I'm just wondering what those are. So on page 440, there's a bunch of additional services, one in St. Paul's for.
We're not talking about the accounts, but it needs to.
I just want to make sure I get an answer, that's all.
Maybe Susan could stay on if after this, but let's stick to this contract. Okay, so, would someone like to make a motion and we'll see how far it goes?
Sorry, because, thank you, Mary Orr. Because we had a lot of, defeated motions, the last time this, agreement was brought forward. I've framed the motions to be that council reconsider authorizing the service agreement with Aqua first, so we can vote on what we want to do with.
Appreciate that, thank you very much. All right, so I will read here the recommendation, the council reconsider authorizing the services agreement with Ontario Clean Water Agency. And the recommendation approves entering into a service agreement with the Ontario Clean Water Agency. I noticed you didn't put a year.
No, because, the discussion around the table, there was, different options that were brought forward. So from a staff perspective, we feel that 5 years is, a doable thing. But, we also know that council had differences of opinion, so we wanted to leave that open for council.
So do you want these two,
So if we could read the first one, yeah.
Okay, so recommendation that the council reconsider authorizing the services agreement with Ontario Clean Water Agency, moved by Deputy Mayor Willem, second by Councillor Corby. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And now we move to the second one, that council approves entering into a services agreement with Ontario Clean Water Agency for the period of 5 years. I'll start with that. Sorry.
Are we still not having room for discussion in this?
Yep, we'll get it on the floor, and I'm only using 5 years because that is the recommendation from staff, that's where I'm starting. Okay, so moved by Councillor Jeff Bell, seconded by Councillor Corby. Room for discussion, so I think the discussion now is, do we want to stay at 5 years or 3 years? If I'm hearing 4.
So I just wanted to just do some clarification in the termination, this is within this contract, so it's not a super easy termination, as it's like, it's a 1 year. It allows Aqua to charge us whatever, like, they calculate, right? And that can be severances, they work with a unionized group, so that could be severances of employees that were. I'm concerned that we can get out of it easy isn't back that into the contract. There are some hoops to jump through. So for that, I support the 3-year only.
Councillor Dennis?
The reason I would support 3 years is, if the subdivision, and this is a big if the subdivision in Sebringville ever does go ahead, the water treatment part of it and the sewage treatment plant would have to be up before the first house could be occupied. And I believe in 3 years, that opportunity may be closer. And it certainly gives us time. I'm just concerned that, if that water treatment plant gets going in 3 or 4 years, the possibility of Black Creek hooking on and saving money, is lost to us for the final few years.
Well, there's currently no, that's not the direction here. I
understand that, but
seen
it's my concern.
CPA, you wanna keep it open for it, but that is,
It's fine.
we're not there.
Oh, I understand.
So, I understand your consideration. Any other comments regarding the 5 years on the table, 3 years being discussed? Any other comments? All right, I'll take the vote. All those in favor of 5 years? All those opposed? It is carried. All right, we are at Deputy CAO Treasurer Tracy. I'm going to put the accounts on for Susan, if you're gonna stay on. There might be a question for you. She might have left.
No, I heard something.
Might not know what things went on.
Okay, should be there.
Okay, I'll put the accounts on for her if she's still there. So recommendation that the accounts payable listed dated November 26, 2025 for the period of November 13th to 2025 in the amount of $1,875,406.69 be approved. Moved by Councillor Vanessa, second by Councillor Corview. The accounts are on the floor for discussion. Do you have any questions? I know Councillor Bell had a. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just on, it's 440 in our, agenda package. Just the additional services, for Black Creek and for the St. Paul's, system, just knew what those are.
Do you know Ken or John?
Well, I can answer, I think I can answer through Mayor, some of the questions, so. From what I remember, there's some extra costs here on St. Paul's system. Cause we had Aqua help with the connection of some of the new homes across the road. And so that's, stuff that's been rebuilt to the homeowners. So there's a couple, costs related to, the time, the materials, whatever was required to do some of the hookups, in St. Paul's here anyway. That was some of the extra stuff. For Sebringville, I'm not sure, is there a dollar amount to some of this?
There's, yeah, that's $700 and then 100. But maybe this is tied in with the hopper, which is my other question. There's about $10,000 for hoppers in, the Black Creek water system. I was just wondering what that is.
Yeah, so the hopper one that was the camera work that was done really well. That was the contractor we had. Anton had got some quotes from different providers, and they were the best price, so they did that for sure. And some of the extra stuff, and it's broken down in the accounts different ways, but some of the costs sometimes are for chlorine chemicals that they get. Cause it goes to the same account, but it's costed separately. So then could have been some parts or some supplies that they had to get for the system.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions regarding the accounts? Councillor Vanessa?
I've got a couple here. There's one, under general administration here. To Waterhouse for $7,000.
That would be, the starting process of when the council was looking for a deputy treasurer.
And so that process was canceled then?
through you, Mayor, or it's on hold right
It's on hold,
Yeah.
so they have done some work. Assuming, so if we decide in the future to get a deputy treasurer, we have some collateral there, some credit, maybe is that a way to say it?
through you, Mayor. Yeah, he's just kind of just put it on hold. He did, he started the process, but he's just waiting on what direction we're gonna go with, staffing, so.
Okay, thank you, and then one more.
Mhm.
Okay. Road grass cutting spraying, there's a few one invoice here from Total Leasing for a rental tractor. Was that the same price we paid the year before then? Ken? Normally in the past, that had come to council before we leased a tractor, this year it didn't. Was that just a continuation of pricing from 2024?
Through the mayor, yes, we had received the same pricing for the lease, from prior year. But that cost on there's a few extras. I know there were some tire repairs.
Well, there's a better cost and then a credit for the same amount, then, so.
Correct, but within, so there was an in and an out, but within that, other amount, there is some extra. It's not just all lease, there's some tire repair costs in there. It's kind of why that in and out one happened, it's included in that other expense, so.
And then for 2026, will we be tendering this process, or are they gonna have the opportunity to mount it in, or?
I guess that I would ask them if they were interested in matching the price, but unless council has different direction. If not, we would get quotes, it's not necessarily full tender, but we get quotes for the unit.
And then one final question about this, did we get our grader up and going?
Yes. Yeah, it was outbound snow, Daryl was very happy, it had a lot of power.
Sure.
On the hills and ice here that we had late last week, so.
Thank you, Ken.
All right, so, all those in favor of the accounts? Opposed? Carried. Tracy, do you wanna take the next report about the accounts payable removal from the agenda? Thank you. So the report in front of council is, report to remove the accounts from the council agenda. As we start our journey into trying to get cyber insurance and protect the municipality as much as we can. These are some of the things that were brought to our attention through our insurance company and our IT provider. So the reports on the table, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Councilor,
Have we considered removing the name and the account number from the same report? So we can provide this report without saying who we're giving the building deposit back to, or who is paying to winterize the pavilion. Would that provide the same privacy, but still allow discussions within the accounts? Wondered if that was considered.
who wants to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Through the mayor, I hear that question, I'm not sure. It would provide you the information you're looking for, or if you take the vendor off and the account number. I'm not sure, other than the dollar amount what you're left with, and then you're still at the table trying to figure out what it is.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure you would achieve.
We are open or left still with the description that says like open and winterize the pavilion.
Right. But then you still have to do that investigative research at the table, and you're still.
If there is a
having-
question.
Yeah, and you're still having the discussion of, well, who was that?
Mhm.
I think you're coming back to the same point that you were.
Is the point to protect against cyber, or is the point to save this from coming to council for efficiency?
Through the mayor, I think the item that brought it to a head was certainly our cyber insurance stuff, as was alluded to earlier in the meeting by Chris Kaiser. We have had a few cyber attacks in the county, one very, very recently. And it's only a matter of time till more municipalities do face that, so I think that's what's brought it to a head. But also hearing, from council, also knowing that, this is a process you've been used to for many, many years. And from staff's perspective, we don't want you not to have information you need, to do your job. So I think first and foremost, we want to make sure that there's an excellent, open, transparent, lots of opportunity for discussion budget process. I think following that, you want to make sure that you've got the right policies in place that make sense for council. So you want to make sure that your procurement policy is where you want it to be, that you're comfortable with. Tracy has, more recently brought, some thoughts forward on having a reserve policy. I think that's another, open and transparent opportunity for you folks to discuss that. I think even further to that, reports that come quarterly or bi-monthly maybe, in terms of where your, actuals are in comparison to your budget, I think are another way for council members to engage. And I think further to that, ultimately, at the end of the year, you have a presentation on your financial statements by your auditor. So there are those opportunities already for engagement, but I would say, to be fair to this scenario, it was about the cyber issue. But again, I appreciate that there are the other concerns at the other side, as you alluded to. We want to make sure that you have enough resources that way to be able to do your job properly. I think when you get into the accounts, and I think to be fair to everybody involved, yes, it's an opportunity for council to ask questions. That's fair. Sometimes those questions are approached with staff once the agenda is released, and that's a benefit. But it's not a benefit for staff to be at the table, to have that question, to be trying to flip around, to try and figure out, what are you talking about? Oh, okay, I'm trying to think back in that. It's not a good opportunity, I think, for anybody involved. For staff, we're left scrambling, and for council, you may or may not get the fulsome answer that you're looking for. With, again, the big picture of, you've already approved the budget, you already have a budget to actual report coming forward, you have a purchasing policy that you've said staff were comfortable with these numbers, but not beyond that. So I think, yes, there is the bigger picture, but this was brought forward with us talking to our IT people, and certainly the cyber insurance and the recent cyber attacks.
Deputy Mayor Rojo?
I don't have any problem with removing this from the agenda. However, I do agree with Will. I would like to see the same form sent out in an email to just two counselors. And then if they have questions, they can contact staff beforehand to get the answers. And so that's how I would like to see moving forward, that we would still get the same information, but it wouldn't be on the agenda.
Tracy, you want to comment on that?
I am not comfortable with sending it through email, because that can still be hijacked. I'd like to come up with another way of getting it to you, but I'm not sure that sending it through the email is the best way to even negate what we're trying to say here. I like hard copy at the counter, or I some other way, like, I'm not saying I can't have it, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the email, because I think we're in the same boat.
Deputy Mayor Rojo?
I believe the rest of the lower tiers in Perth County did that.
I'm not sure that they did. I thought it was removed from all the lower tiers.
It is removed from their agenda. However, they do get emails sent out in the same format through email.
Do they all do that?
I don't know about Perth East, but North Perth and West Perth do, yes.
So if we're comfortable with email, I was just being devil's advocate for safety here, but.
Yeah, or maybe send a closed session. You email with closed. With passwords.
We'll figure out some way.
Yep. We can look at that.
Councilor Corby, did you have a question in there?
Yeah, email would be more convenient, other than a hard copy, a paper copy here on our desk, the meeting after, but whatever is the best way to protect ourselves.
Councilor Martin?
I'm just wondering, maybe Lizette can answer this, just a point of process, because I did some research thinking along this line earlier. And the Municipal Act it seems to state that if we're reviewing accounts, that this needs to be public. Like, are we allowed to do this? I think section 2.9.4.1, the statements must be made public along with the operating capital. I just wonder if we're allowed to do that. I just want to make sure if we create any new processes, it's well aligned with the municipal act.
That's the budget.
That's just budget.
Budget,
Not-
financial statements and the information return, yeah.
But is it within what we're allowed to discuss in closed session too? This one is.
I would say no.
No.
So if I may, so from a staff perspective, having the accounts, on the agenda, has been sort of like a process here that has been in place and it's just historical. From a council's role point of view, your role is to set the budget and have staff implement the expenses. We have the policies in place for procurement and that sort of thing, and then staff would bring forward the, anything that was over what our policy said. So accounts payable, are already covered through the approved budget process. Removing the accounts is not taking away from council's purview. I understand, it's from this council's perspective, we've been doing it since I've been here in 2011, so it is something that's a big change. We're not trying to hide anything, but as discussed, cybersecurity is a big thing. We already have a small staff. That does help in a lot of ways with cybersecurity, but all it takes is that one phishing incident, because there's the information. Council doesn't need to approve the accounts. You've already approved the budget. It's kind of a base that's not required. So as Tracy said, the municipal act does state that we have to be very open with our financial position and the money that we have. We don't have to be this detailed. So that's my answer. Councilor Joseph?
Yeah, I agree with everything. What I would love to see the accounts, I don't need to count petty cash. I really don't. I would like to see a year to date where we are against the budget. That's what I prefer to see. So that'd be my preference.
Councilor Vanessa?
I personally seen the accounts somehow, whether it's just a paper copy at the beginning of the meeting, we don't, so I think it's very beneficial to council. More than just saying, this is where we are along the budget. I mean, right now we can see that, we've got 3 or 4 dump trucks and this one sucks. And for a couple of years, it should have been gone, or this grade, or we needed this or that. I mean, I think it's very beneficial to council to see those individual statements. Especially as we go into asset management plan and say the grader has to be replaced every 5 years, well, maybe it's every 7 is good. Like, it gives us a lot more information. I would really hate to lose that information. There's gotta be a way we can do it. And I'm quite fine with the paper copy coming to council. Anybody sitting in council can have a look, and at the end of council, it goes right back.
Go ahead.
Through the mayor and to Councilor Van Ness's point, fair point. My only suggestion to that would be that should come through Mr. Battles, right? So if he notices that there's a truck that's constantly going in for service, that should come through your staff, that hey, we have a truck that it's been in 5 times, and maybe that's part of it, that whether it's monthly, bi-monthly, budget, some of that reporting should occur at that time. That's all I would say to that, but fair point, you do wanna know where your vehicles and equipment are at, fair.
Tracy, is it hard for us to have a hard copy here? You are already it now.
I agree with Jim, I'd like to see it too, it does add value to your decision, so.
But you're okay with a paper copy?
Yeah, paper copy here before the next meeting, I'm perfect with it.
It really is about cyber insurance at this point in time. And I'm serving on a few different boards, including Spruce Lodge, and everybody is making this change for a reason, so. All right, so I have a recommendation here in front of me, that the council of the Township of Perth South received the report from Deputy CAO Treasurer titled Accounts Payable Removal from the Agenda for Information. And that council authorizes the removal of the accounts for the council agenda. Moved by Council Jeff Bell, second by not like Council Borview. Any more discussion? Deputy Mayor?
So you're not putting anything in this motion, how council would receive or that council is going to receive accounts payable?
Would you like to see it?
I'd like to see something in there.
As a paper copy or do you?
I am going, I just jotted down, I am going to reach out to IT Dan, when we're done and just see if he's comfortable with the email, going out just before the council, if he's not, then it will be ours. So if, I guess we could put in the resolution, that the council will be, to council members, the next meeting, some other way besides on the agenda, so I don't know how you word that.
I realize we've got a motion on the floor, but perhaps we should refer to Tracy, plans us so.
Through the mayor, just a question of clarification, is this more meant as an FYI? Or is this meant as something that would form part of the agenda regardless of the fact that it's not there? And the only reason I ask, I know for consent, that will become far more challenging if you hope to bring that as part of the agenda package itself. If it's simply an FYI to put some thoughts in the back of your brain so that you can ask staff at some point later, that's one thing, but okay, just I wanted to clarify. I think that's correct, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that everyone was on that same page.
Council Vanessa?
If we do happen to go to paper copies or electronic, can we at least have a paper copy here for anybody who wants to see it from the community during the meeting? Because I personally believe it should be a public document. I'm not saying they can take it home with them.
Well, I'd personally like to have our insurance company do it.
That's a
Go ahead.
I just like to support what Deputy Mayor Wilhelm said, and just maybe we look at deferring this until we actually know what are we allowed to do. And maybe bring it back next council once we have these questions answered.
Okay, so the two that put it on the floor, are you okay to defer?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so all those in favor of deferring the motion, so we have Tracy look into whether it should be a paper copy or an email. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. You are up again for the budget. process.
Yes, Mayor, this report is just to give council an update on our timeline of the budget process. In the report, I've outlined the overview of the budget process now that we have a strong mayor. And what we've decided to do, because legislation will not let the mayor delegate her power of the budget to staff. We are going to not present the budget to council until February 1st, and then it just becomes a regular, just like you've seen it before, and we'll go through the budget that way. So let's see, we were playing devil's advocate. I was gonna try and get the budget binder to council the middle of January, but I think at this point I can't give it to you until February 1st. So first meeting in February, I will give you your binders and then give you a couple weeks to go through it, ask any questions. Then we'll set up a meeting and go through it line by line, so council has a good understanding of the budget at that. So, any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions regarding that? This is more in line to what we have done in the past, and I'm comfortable with it, and Ken has no projects that he needs pre-approval for. So, I'd like to stick with this, and if you want me to be a strong mayor, I'll do that another week. Okay, I see a recommendation of the Council of Township Perth South receive the report of the Deputy CAO Treasurer titled 2026 budget timeline for information. Moved by Councilor Martin, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Carried. How's that?
Thank you, Mayor Orr. I brought this report forward, after discussing with Mayor Orr. She had indicated that, if we could maybe change our way of doing the Christmas bonus for staff, so that it doesn't have to come to every meeting, each year at the end of the year. So I prepared a report with my recommendation for council's consideration. This is, an item that council has, since I've been here, since 2011, has granted each year. And I think my report says 2020, they increased it from 50/25 to 100/50 for full-time and part-time employees. If anyone has any questions to answer them?
Any questions, Deputy Mayor Rowland?
I just have a comment. I don't begrudge giving this bonus up to our employees. I think they deserve it. I do have a bit of a problem making it a policy because I don't think we should set that policy for the council that will be elected for 26. If they want to make that policy, they should.
Any other comments? I like to make a comment here. I don't have a problem with the $50 to $100 bonus. It helps actually prevent us with the $10,000 retention prep plan when we have to recruit other staff. The point of the bonus that I believe everybody agrees on is that staff who feel valued stay longer, work better, and speak positively. It's not the size of the bonus, it's the message of the work that is noticed. So we're not disagreeing on that everybody gets the bonus. It's just that we have this conversation every year. And as Lizette alluded to, we've been doing this since 2011. Or it's even further before that, yeah. So we've never not said no, it's moving forward. So I will, Councilor Vanessa.
I think it's wonderful that we have this discussion every year saying our staff is good and they're getting $50 or $100. I'd be disappointed we don't have this conversation. I would prefer not to make it policy, and then we're fortunate as council will have the opportunity to have this discussion in December and make that decision to give our staff a Christmas bonus.
Councilor.
That's an interesting point, Councilor Vanessa. I hadn't thought about it from that angle. For me, this spoke to great efficiency to save some work, because I can't foresee that the next council is not going to be wowed by the staff unless we have an entire turnover between now and the next council. This will deserve a bonus forever. So to me, I would support it because I think, as Mayor Orr spoke to, it speaks for retention, and it gives some efficiency, and I think that it's important to find the efficiencies where we can in a small team.
All right, I have a recommendation here that the council receives the report entitled Staff Christmas Bonus, and further that council approves amending the employee compensation policy to include an annual Christmas bonus of $100 for full-time employees and $50 for the permanent part-time employees. Moved 5. Councilor Martin, second 5. Councilor Corview. Any more discussion? If not, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is carried.
And Councilor Vanessa, you are quite welcome to put your comments forward on the last
So it's not both mine.
All right, any correspondence? No. Council reports. Councilor Martin, please start.
Just one quick thing, the St. Paul's Recreation met, there was higher costs involved with moving to a digital platform than they were completely aware of. So we're gonna have to do another $15 increase for next year, still puts the program cheaper than all of the neighbors. So that's the only thing coming from it.
Councilor Phil.
Pretty quiet for me, thank you.
Councilor Vanessa.
Pretty well also.
Councilor Courtney.
I just have a question for Ken. when we're talking about the budget process, as far as paving tenders and everything going up, we're set for next year, like, because. If we don't do the budget until February 1st, that pushes everything a bit late for Ken for tenders.
Through the mayor, my thought was that, if there is anything I need to ask for early approval on, I would be able to do that early in February.
Oh, that gives you enough time, and then Ken.
Yeah,
Okay.
depending on how long the budget process may take, there may be some projects I would wanna get out early for tender. But early being in February potentially.
No, larger good.
But to match the process, yeah, I wouldn't bring anything forward for early approval until, in February was fine.
Okay. Other than that, it's quiet.
Okay, Councillor Markland.
Minor.
Fairly quiet, we have a Township fire board meeting Thursday, I think. And I think we get an opportunity to meet the new fire chief, but also, I'd be interested to see his thoughts. Other than that, fairly quiet.
Do you know who new fire chief?
I haven't seen the.
The name?
I don't see.
Fine. All right, I found the last 2 weeks very busy. Lots of discussion around the tree bylaw. Municipal Day was great. Harvest Gala, that was well attended. I took an opportunity to meet with the Ministry of Finance for 3 minutes. And, spoke on our behalf that I really wanna see OMPO funding, stabilized. Or not just for South, but for the county. Taking part in something with economic development and the viewer of the archives in St. Mary's, and talking about Rannoch for next year. If anybody would like, there is a small committee forming of Gord Barnett, Dave Ford. They wanna do, well, and not myself, we wanna do something special at Rannoch, so if anybody would like to join us, it'll likely be next September or October at Rannoch to celebrate its 80th year. So that's what the video is all about, so. Community safety and well-being, there was a presentation in Stratford. And I also attended the annual Strong Leaders, Strong Communities, and then there were staff luncheons for Christmas, so. Okay, we'll move on. We are at recommendation of the bylaw. Yes.
I just sorry, I forgot something. Tomorrow I have mobility bus and Tracy presented a check for me to give if anybody wants to go at 1 o'clock and with me to present it, doesn't matter, but, and then Tracy's gonna get information on the vehicle that we are supposedly, if they want it, they can have a look at it, but, we'll see. I don't know if there's any stipulations yet, but if they decide they want it, then I'll give them the information tomorrow on the vehicle and the kilometers. Tracy email to get that information.
I believe there's a CPAC meeting tomorrow morning too.
Yes. Okay. So tomorrow, 1 o'clock is mobility bus.
Alright.
Okay.
All right, so I have a bylaw here that the bylaw 49/2025 be a bylaw to adopt a chief administrative officer for the township of Perth South, beginning first, second, and third readings, and properly signed and sealed. Moved by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Corby. All those in favor? Carried. Recommendation that the bylaw 50/2025 being a bylaw to amend the township of Perth zoning bylaw for the property located at 140 be given first, second, and third readings and be properly signed and sealed. Moved by Councilor Markell, second by Councilor Vanessa. All those in carried, all those in favor. Any opposed? It's carried. A bylaw that, about 51/2025 being a bylaw to authorize a shared services agreement with the township of Perth East be given first, second, and third readings and be properly signed and sealed. Moved by Councilor Vanessa, second by Councilor Jeff Bell. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the bylaw 52/2025 being a bylaw to authorize a service agreement with the Ontario Clean Water Agency be given first, second, and third readings and be properly signed and sealed. Moved by Councilor Corby, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. No other announcements? Councilor Dennis?
This is totally the wrong place and I apologize this. Could we have an update where we are with the well in Seabrook? I was by there last week, they were drilling it. And I didn't get by yesterday where we had the point that we're starting to hook it up, or do you have any information, Ken?
Yeah, through the mayor, I can, the well is drilled. And so that's kind of the stage we're at, so there's some process still to develop it and, do some testing on it and stuff. That's happening this week, so.
Thank you for that update, I apologize. It's the
No,
wrong part of the
that's a
meeting.
good question, thank you. Okay, any notices of motion? Other business, no public questions, no public or basic question period, including for the bylaws. But the bylaw 53/2025 being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution of the Township of Perth South has been given first, second, and third readings. And be properly signed and sealed. You will follow Councilor Corley, the second by Councilor Martin, all those in favor, carried. And recommendation that the meeting does adjourn by 11:54 AM. Move 5. Councilor Jeff Bell, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you, everyone.